right, just like last time, my friends, we're going to start again with a CRP using the same 5 questions. Yet again, you won't have any wrong answers with this. This is a painting by Georgia O'Keeffe, and we'll go over a little bit later about who she is, okay? So our first question is, what do you notice? What do you notice when you're looking at this? Our next question is, what does this remind you of? Does it remind you of something? What do you notice when you look at this? Do you see colors? Do you see something in it? What does it remind you of? Third question, how does this make you feel? Happy, sad? And if so, why? What questions do you have while you're looking at this? Are you curious about why it was made? And our last question is, why do you think it was made? Do you think it was made to tell a story? Do you think it was made for a certain person? So I'm going to repeat the questions again. What do you notice? What does this remind you of? How does this make you feel? What questions do you have? And why do you think this was made? Yet again, you can put this in a video. You can also type this down in the discussion below. All right. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope I see you all soon. Bye, friends. All right, friends, so let's chat about Georgia O'Keeffe. So Georgia O'Keeffe, she was born in the United States. This is a beautiful picture of her. And one time she moved to Hawaii, and that made her really enjoy looking at all of these beautiful flowers. And her biggest thing is she wanted to bring flowers to the gigantic, right? So she made pictures like this that are so big that they fill up an entire wall, right? They're not small, like they can fit in my hand, right? Just like a normal flower. And her biggest thing is she just wanted to really show what flowers were like. She also really enjoyed skulls with flowers, right? And she also loved seeing kind of this dark landscape as well. So let's see, I can maybe find a beautiful picture of a landscape that she did. So a lot of her things was she just loved to be in New Mexico, different places in the United States, and kind of capture the beauty and the colors, right? She really loved to play with colors, and she really loved to play with making things bigger or making things smaller, right? Her biggest thing though was she loved making things big and larger than life, which is going to be our biggest thing for today, okay? So in this video, you can make a video yourself, or you can type in the discussion down below something that you learned about Georgia O'Keeffe. You can do some research of your own if you like. You can tell me where she was from. You can tell me more about her herself. But Georgia O'Keeffe's one of my favorite artists, so I'm really hoping that you guys like her too. So tell me below something that you learned about Georgia O'Keeffe. All right, so what we are doing, friends, is we are going to make our very own Georgia O'Keeffe painting by going and making a flower. Now this flower is going to be big. It's going to take up a whole piece of paper like this one. Do you see how every single corner, sorry that it's ripped a little bit, is full of this flower, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a flower that looks realistic, and we're going to draw that flower. Now, this might be hard for some of you guys because you've only drawn what you think is what a flower looks like. What I'm talking about is the difference between envisioning and observation. When I think about what a flower looks like, right, I think, okay, I'm going to start with a circle, and I'm going to draw some ovals here, and bam, I got a flower, right? This is what's called envisioning, right? Which means that you think of it in your head and then you draw it. However, we are trying to make our flower look realistic, which means that we are going to take a flower And we can look it up on Google. You can just type in the word flower. And you're gonna pick one and you're going to draw it as realistically as possible, which means that you can zoom up to it, do what you can. So when I notice this flower, I notice that there are 5 petals to it. I notice that there are little things in the middle to it, right? I notice that there's texture where it kind of dips in over there, right? If I look at this one in the middle, there's tons of petals to that right. If I look at this one, I notice that the petals are overlapping, same as that one. Observation is when we look at things closely in order to see what they look like. If I look at this, right, I notice that it's overlapping. I notice that this one is mostly covered. I notice that this one also has a darker color to it. What I'm doing is I'm going to look at it and I'm gonna really, really think what it looks like. So observation is when we really look at a picture or we look at a flower itself and we look and we see the little differences in it. A rose is very hard to make because there's lots and lots of petals, right? And that's the whole idea of this. We're not just going to simply draw one really quickly, right? We are going to take our time. Make sure that there's lots of different things to it, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick one. So I'm gonna pick this one. This is actually a pretty simple one to do because yes, there's a couple overlapping, right? But there's not as much petals, right? The more petals you have, the harder it's going to be, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it next to me and I'm going to look at it really, really closely and notice what I see, okay? So I'm going to kind of draw a circle in the middle and then I'll come back to that, right? And I'm just gonna draw a small one at first for this. And I'm noticing that this first petal that I'm doing, yeah, it's the beginning of it, but at the ends, I notice that it kind of dips in a little bit, right? And then we go in for it. I also notice that there's lots of lines here that are starting it. And now I notice that this one is kind of covering our next one. So I'm gonna go over again. I have those little dips again that I see. And this one is covering our other one. So I'm gonna have that go. And I have those lines as well. And this one actually connects all the way to the top right there. So I can go ahead and I can erase and I can go and make that decision. So what you guys are doing today is you are going to pick a flower off of the internet, or if there's a flower in your house that you'd like to use. Usually if we do this in school, I give you guys some fake flowers to really look at closely. But you're gonna go onto the internet, you're gonna find flowers, right? And I'm gonna have you guys look to see, you know, really, really closely and use observation in order to make your flower look as realistic, which means as lifelike as possible. Some of you might have a really hard time with this because you're so used to using observation, and not observation, but envisioning. Some of you really might like this because you really like looking at things closely, right? Sometimes we're just using different parts of our brain when we are going to make different kinds of art, and that's totally okay, right? So I'm almost done with this one here. You guys are going to post to me the beginning of just your very small, simple flower that you have observed, and you are going to post it onto this, all right? I'm looking for craftsmanship. I'm looking to see that you guys really took your time. I am looking to see if you guys were rushing through it, right? Just to get it done. I'm also looking to see how realistic it looks like, right? Does it look like you just kind of drew a flower? Or does it look like you guys took your time and really showed me what the flower you saw looks like, okay? And that is what I want to see you guys do today. Just have you guys show me the beginnings of your flower, all right? And remember, it doesn't have to be big like Georgia O'Keeffe made it, because that's going to be our project for tomorrow, okay? Making them larger than life. And that is my flower. This is my small one that I would turn in if I were me, okay? And I'm excited to see what you guys make. Bye, friends. Hello, friends. So last time we were here, we were drawing our smaller flowers. Now I ripped this out of my notebook paper so I can have this handy and so I can see it at all times. Because remember, we are using observation, which is looking at things closely, in order to make sure we know what we are doing, okay? So with this, my friends, I'm gonna put this to my side and I'm going to draw that flower as big as I can because I want it to look like this, what I had in the end. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start drawing that circle in the middle because I know I can add detail at the end, right? And then I'm gonna start to draw my different petals. And since I'm making it bigger, right, my petals are gonna probably go all the way onto the edges and I'm not gonna see them after the edge, which means like the detail that I have at the very end, I'm probably not gonna see. However, I will be seeing if my petals are overlapping, right? So I know that this petal is completely overlapped. So I might just have where I see just the edges of them at the very end. And I might see that I have my folds in the petal, right? Now I know this one is overlapped by the other one, so I'm gonna have the beginning of it and maybe that little part where I see it, and I'm gonna have my edges, right? And this one over here is actually overlapped. So this is just where, you know, I'm taking my time once again. I'm making sure that I see where the overlapping happens. I'm seeing where one petal maybe covers another one. I'm seeing, you know, where the folds are, right? And I'm taking my time. Now, if you guys need to look at the original picture in order to really see where all those edges are, I really suggest that we do that because a lot of times it can be hard to see all of those little edges, right? So that's the biggest thing that we're working on with this one, okay? We're making sure that we see all of these little edges. We're making sure we see all of the little dips to it. And even in my middle, right? I know that there were lots of dots here. And I know that there were kind of like these star shapes that I saw. So I'm gonna make my little star shapes. And that's how I'm gonna make it. So all of this is just about, you know, overlapping, making it big, just like Georgia O'Keeffe would, right? Making it larger than life. Now I know that sometimes our papers are gonna be a little bit smaller. And so that's why we're just gonna try to do our best, right? Do what we can. Now, usually I use black paper at this point. So if you guys are using black paper, right, it might be hard for you guys to see with a regular pencil. I do suggest that you draw with a regular pencil first and then go back over it with a white colored pencil, just because it's a little easier for you to see. Now, I don't want you to just sit here and watch me draw for a little while. So just make sure that you draw your picture that you had before, but larger than life, right? And you're gonna make sure that all of it you can see. If you're using black paper, which we usually would, then make sure that you are drawing it with pencil first and then going over it with a white colored pencil. All right, and that's what we're gonna do for today. I hope that you're doing well. Hope to see you soon. Bye, friends.